Have you ever felt like you failed so deeply that there's no turning back? Like you've crossed an invisible line and now all that's left is to live with the consequences? Sometimes we make decisions that seemed right at the time, but later leave us with a bitter taste in our souls. Maybe you abandoned a dream out of fear. Maybe you stayed silent when you should have spoken. Maybe you trusted someone who betrayed you. Or maybe you just stopped fighting for yourself, and now everything inside you echoes the same phrase, "I ruined everything." But what if I told you that this feeling of failure isn't the end? That God is still writing your story, even when everything around you seems like ruins? It's hard to believe that when you're in the middle of the wreckage, when all you see are closed doors and lost opportunities, but the truth is, God has never written perfect stories with perfect people. He has always used the broken ones, the ones who failed, the ones who fell, because it's on the ground where he finds the raw material for new beginnings. Do you remember Moses? He killed a man, he fled. He spent years hiding in the desert, away from everything and everyone. To the world he was finished, a murderer, a coward. But it was there, in the desert, that God appeared to him in a burning bush and called him to free an entire people. A man who had given up on himself was raised by God to change the history of a nation. Maybe this is what you need to hear today. It's not too late. Even if you've messed up, even if you've fallen short, even if you've walked far away, God doesn't look at you like the world does. He doesn't define you by your mistake. He sees you with eyes of purpose. What you call the end, he calls the turning point. And I know the pain of feeling like a failure doesn't only come from what happened, but from how you see yourself after it. You start seeing yourself as someone who doesn't deserve another chance. Someone who has wasted too much time, thrown away too many blessings, and now doesn't even trust themselves. But God's word says, "Though the righteous fall 7 times, they will rise again." Do you know why? Because our victory doesn't depend on how many times we fall, but on the grace that picks us up every time we choose not to stay on the ground. Have you thought about how many people admire you today without knowing the battles you faced? Or how many others could be transformed by your testimony if you simply decided to get up and move forward? How many single mothers, bankrupt business owners, frustrated young people, indebted fathers, people who have messed up badly? How many need to see someone like you say, "Yes, I failed, but God is still with me"? Maybe what you need today is a simple exercise. Write a letter to yourself, not one of blame, but of hope. Write down everything you've learned from your failures and what you still have time to build starting now. Then read it aloud, because sometimes the only voice that can convince you to try again is your own voice, reminding you who you are in God. You're not behind, you're not off course, you're just on a stretch of the path where you can't yet see the full picture, but God sees it and He is guiding you step by step. He didn't bring you this far to leave you. If all you can do today is take a deep breath and a small step forward, that is already enough for heaven to move. Right now, God is writing the next chapter of your story, even if you can't feel it or see what He's doing. Trust that something holy is in motion. Have you ever prayed so hard it felt like your soul was being torn open and still you received no answer? Have you cried through the night wishing for one sign that God was still with you? And what you got was silence. A silence so heavy it felt like it crushed you from the inside out. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't the desert. It's feeling like you're walking through it alone. That's the point where many give up, where they think God has walked away. But listen closely. God's silence does not mean He is absent. Often it's proof He is doing something far deeper. It's in that silence that He works in parts of your soul no words could ever reach. It's where He shapes your faith, because real faith isn't believing when all is well. It's walking forward when heaven is quiet. How many times have you prayed, "Lord, increase my faith," and then the storm came, the loss came, the closed doors came, and with them came the silence? Have you noticed how God often responds not with words, but with actions? He isn't silent because he abandoned you. He's silent because he's preparing something. Think about it. Why did Jesus, the very Son of God, go through 40 days in the wilderness, in silence, hungry, tempted, and alone? Because even he had to be prepared for what came next. The wilderness is not punishment, it is preparation. It's where you learn to trust not in answers, but in presence, not in clarity, but in faith. Maybe this is exactly where you are now. Maybe your marriage feels cold and distant. Maybe you're battling a hidden addiction or an old wound no one sees. You've asked for help, but nothing's changed. You've prayed for healing, but the diagnosis remains. You've begged for direction, but all still feels dark. And now you wonder, does God still hear me? Let me tell you this, he hears you, and more than that, he sees you even if no one else knows how hard you're trying. God knows, and he's still in control. Think of a farmer when he plants a seed. He doesn't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. He waters, he waits, he trusts the unseen process beneath the surface. And then one day that seed breaks through the soil and blooms. Now think about how many seeds God has planted inside of you, how many processes are unfolding in silence. You don't see anything yet because it's still underground. But that doesn't mean it's not alive, it means you're being made ready for what's coming. And in all this, there is one thing you must remember. The fact that you can't hear God right now does not cancel what he already said over your life. Do you remember the promise God made to you? Do you remember how he held you up when no one else could? The same God who carried you yesterday is shaping you today, even in the silence, even when you hear nothing. Here's an invitation, a challenge. For the next 7 days, whenever the silence feels overwhelming, say out loud, God is preparing me. Say it even when you don't feel it, even when it sounds like a lie. Because your mouth must remind your mind that God doesn't need noise to move. If you need a real-life example, look at Oprah Winfrey. Rejected, abused, and dismissed. She lived for years in the silence of pain and shame. But in that silence, she wasn't forgotten. She was being prepared. Today, she's one of the most influential women on the planet. She herself has said that it was in the pain, the silence, and the waiting that she learned to hear what truly matters. Now think about yourself. What are you going through right now that feels meaningless? What hurts so much that it makes you wonder if God is too far away? Can you believe that even in this uncertain place, he is still with you? You don't need to feel it to know it. Faith is not emotion. Faith is conviction. It's walking with no map, trusting that God knows the way. It's moving forward without hearing, trusting he still speaks. It's not seeing, but believing he still sees. Take a deep breath. You are not alone. You haven't been forgotten. Heaven is not silent because you've been rejected. It's silent because a revelation is being prepared. And when it comes, you will understand that every tear had a purpose, every unheard prayer was stored, and every silence was a voice whispering, "Trust me." Just keep going. The silence you're in today will echo as testimony tomorrow, and it will be worth it. Every single second will have mattered. Have you ever felt like no one cares? Like the whole world kept moving and you were left behind? Maybe you're pretending to be strong while hiding tears you can't hold anymore. Maybe you're living on autopilot, with a heart so tired and crushed that the only thing you wonder is, would anyone notice if I disappeared? Maybe you're going through that right now, feeling invisible even to God. But hear this clearly, you are not alone, even if it feels like you are. You're still part of God's plan. So many times we look at ourselves and feel like we're not enough, not strong enough, not spiritual enough, not capable enough. Then we start comparing ourselves to others who seem successful and happy, and we think that could never happen for me. God must use people who are better, different. But that's a cruel lie pain whispers when we're weak. God doesn't use the best, he uses the available. He doesn't choose the perfect, he equips the willing. Do you think David was the most qualified among his brothers? He wasn't even invited when Samuel came to anoint a king, and yet God chose him, the smallest, the forgotten, the unlikely. God loves to reverse expectations. He turns the rejected into pillars, the doubted into examples. And he looks at you, scars, flaws, doubts and all, and still says, "You're the one I want to write something new with." That's why you can't quit now. What feels like an erased chapter in your story might be exactly what will change someone else's life. Your story matters. Your struggle has significance. Even if you stumble on the way, your journey matters. Have you heard of Nick Vujicic, a man born without arms and legs? As a teenager, he once believed his life was a mistake and thought about ending it. But God used his story to encourage millions of people around the world. Today, Nick shares messages of love, faith, and overcoming adversity with crowds everywhere, and says confidently that he would not change a single thing about his life. He knows God created him with a purpose. He is not a miracle despite his disability. He is a miracle because of it. What if the same is true for you? What if what you believe disqualifies you is the very thing God will use to touch someone else's heart? Maybe your pain is the language someone else understands. You do not need a platform, a crowd, or a microphone. You only need to say, "Here I am." It could be caring for someone in your family or reaching out to a friend who is hurting more than you. It might be choosing honesty when others lie, or simply getting out of bed, even when everything in you screams to give up. That already is faith in action. That already is God using you. Maybe you do not see yourself as capable. Maybe your past feels too heavy. Maybe you say, "I messed up too much. I've gone too far. I've been gone too long." But the Bible is filled with stories of people just like that. Ordinary, broken people. Like Rahab, a prostitute who became part of Jesus' lineage, or Paul, who once persecuted Christians. Try this powerful exercise. Write down every reason you think you are not worthy. Then next to each one, write how God could use it to bless someone else. What you call shame, God might call a tool. Do not hide yourself. Do not erase who you are. You are not too small for God to use. God is not waiting for your perfect version. He is calling you exactly as you are, with pain, with doubt, with scars, because real people reach real people. Your truth will heal someone. Your vulnerability will set someone free. Your story, just as it is, could become the bridge to someone else's miracle. You have already conquered more than many will ever know. You have faced battles no one has seen. You have survived nights full of silence and thoughts that tried to destroy you. You are not here by accident. If God brought you this far, He still has plans for you. So keep going, even with tears, even in silence. God still uses people just like you. In His darkest moments, He penned the most powerful psalms in Scripture, words that still comfort countless generations to this day, born out of deep pain and raw surrender. It shows us that God doesn't always remove the pain. Sometimes He uses it to draw out things like compassion, endurance, maturity, real faith, and inner strength we never knew we had. What if your pain today is the exact answer to someone else's prayer tomorrow? What if this season is not punishment, but preparation to become someone else's healing? Have you thought that the tears you cry now might be the reason someone else keeps going later, because you chose to survive and speak life into them? Ever heard of Lauren Daigle? She's one of the most powerful Christian voices today, but before that, she faced sickness, rejection, silence, and isolation. She lost her voice, was overlooked by labels, battled discouragement, but she didn't quit. She kept going through the silence, and God gave her voice purpose. Now her music reaches millions around the globe, because in her cave of loneliness, God lit a fire that still burns in the hearts of many. What if the same thing is happening with you? What if what breaks you today will be the very thing that sets you apart and uplifts others tomorrow? This isn't just about you. It's about the lives that will be changed when they see that you didn't collapse, but stood strong through the fire. Someday you'll say, "I've walked through this, I've felt the pain, but I've also seen what healing from God really looks like." You don't need a perfect moment to act. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is get up, take a shower, eat, cry if needed, but keep going. Because walking with God isn't always about grand victories. It's about those quiet acts of resistance that inch you closer to your divine calling. You may feel silent, but God is still writing. You may feel weak, but heaven is holding you. You may be low, but you're not alone. This pain is producing something in you. It's pulling you away from shallow living and drawing you into deeper waters where real miracles take place. Have you ever been so exhausted you couldn't even pray, only whisper, "God, help me"? That whisper is enough to shake heaven and move his heart. He's not impressed by long speeches. He responds to a broken heart. And pain has a way of breaking us open so he can rebuild us with purpose. Suffering strips away our pride, silences our certainty, brings us to our knees, and that's where God meets us, tenderly and powerfully. He is the God of silent cries, of darkness filled with tears, of those too weary to stand, but still stubborn enough to believe. Here's something practical. Grab a piece of paper and write down every moment you thought you couldn't make it, but did anyway. Read it out loud and remind yourself, you've come too far to give up now. You've won before. You'll win again. You are not here by accident. One day you'll look back with tears in your eyes and say, "Now I understand." What feels like a burden today will be your testimony tomorrow. Don't quit. Not now, not after all the battles you've already survived. You're being refined. You won't leave this the same person. You'll be stronger, more filled with grace, more like Jesus. And that change in you, it will impact the world. Now take a breath. Just breathe for a moment. Close your eyes if you can and feel your heartbeat. Feel what's still alive inside of you. Despite all the wounds, the losses, the falls, and the unanswered questions, you made it here. That in itself is a miracle. Maybe no one's told you today, so let me remind you. You are strong, you are valuable, you are needed. The world would not be the same without you. Think about all that you've been through, the sleepless nights, the whispered prayers, the days when simply getting out of bed took all your courage. You kept going, even when no one applauded. You stood firm, even when no one understood. You fought in silence, even through your tears. You held on when everything inside you screamed to give up. That's not weakness, that's strength, that's living faith, that's proof that God never left your side. How many times have you looked up and asked, "Why God?" Maybe he didn't answer the way you expected, but he did answer, in the details. In the strength that came when you thought you'd fall apart, in the unexpected hug, in the song that played at the perfect moment, in the verse that appeared when you needed it most, in the small signs only the heart can feel. That's where he was, so close. You are not a mistake. You are not lost. You are not forgotten. God knows your name. He knows the number of hairs on your head. He knows the fears you never voice. And still he loves you, not with just any love, but a love that never gives up, a love that forgives, that embraces, that begins again. A love that gathers your broken pieces and makes them a masterpiece. So please don't give up. Not now. Not after all you've endured. There are still promises waiting for you. Paths you've yet to walk. People who will be blessed by your story. You have no idea how many miracles are still ahead. And one day, when you least expect it, you'll look back with eyes full of tears and a heart overflowing. And you'll say, it was worth it, every moment mattered. Because God never stopped writing, he was just perfecting the ending.